Hey guys, Mike Goldstein here of EasyDatingCoach.com. I am really excited for today's guest. I was very lucky to get to meet her in person a few weeks ago. I've known about her for years. She's wildly famous in our industry and a very big name, so it's extremely exciting to have her. Amy,
Hi.
welcome to the channel. How are you?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me. I'm good. I'm great.
Thank you. So, guys, stick around. We've got a gift that we're going to give away later if you make it. And what we're talking about today is, are you motivated to marry? And I'm so excited about this topic because sometimes we think we're ready to rock and roll, but there's some things that we may be missing. And we've got the right person here today to kind of explain that to us. So first of all, Amy, you coined the phrase motivated to marry. How does that relate to dating? What does this mean? Help us out.
Well, I was the poster child for motivated to marry. So I was unfortunately divorced. I was married at 25 and divorced in my mid 30s. And it really was the heartbreak of my life because I never expected to be divorced in my mid 30s without a family. And we didn't have any children. And here I am thrown out there into the dating world. And, everyone in my family was married. My brother was married, my cousins. And so it just was and I saw a very nice marriage from my parents. So, for me to be out there, I mean, I always envisioned myself to be married. So, and to have a family. So I was kind of motivated to marry. And I remember I was at the singles event, and it might be like a happy hour or something like that. And I'm talking to this guy. He was really cute, and we're having a nice conversation. And he tells me that he's a musician and he plays in a band, and he's going to Europe for 6 months to play in a band. And I'm like, you're not motivated. Like that's what came up in my head. And so then I had to figure out a way to say, well, it was nice meeting you, and to kind of, move on to the next person who may be more of a match for me and ready. So I think it's about purposeful dating. It's about being ready. It's about knowing your goals and really willing to put it out there. It's really funny. I get a lot of different reactions from Motivated to Marry. So I wrote a little book. It's a little ebook called Motivated to Marry now. It's an ebook. And then I morphed in my book into, when I did my bigger book, it's called Get It Right This Time. And the reason why I kind of shied away from Motivated to Marry back then was I was at a singles event, and I was able to kind of hang out, and I had a little survey, and the guy who ran the event was very nice. He let me go around, and I said, oh, will you, take this survey? My book is, I mentioned Motivated to Marry, and they looked at me like, get away from me, please leave, like do not talk to me. And they were like, you knew they were motivated, but they were like, I don't want anyone to know that I want marriage. Like that's not cool. Like, it's not cool. So I kept getting I'm not motivated to marry. And then I said, well, it's really about dating, healthy dating, and getting it right this time. And so I morphed my next book, my bigger, better book, into Get It Right This Time, how to find and keep your ideal romantic relationship. So Motivated to Marry is now just a little ebook, and it's got a lot of good stuff in it. But that's how it came to be. And so,
Can I ask you something?
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. So you said that people were turned off by Motivated to Marry. Was that men or was that women were turned off when you first pitched it?
Mostly women, and then men too, because then I had my new book, and I've self-published it, and I made about 200 copies back then, and so I'm like, here's my book, and they're like, get away from me. I'm not interested in marriage. And some, it's interesting to see some of those guys are still not married, and some of them are. So it is a timing issue with that. So it is both men and women, but I would say that it's Motivated to Marry is like owning that you are ready for marriage, you are dating for the purpose of marriage, and that you're going to be strategic about how you go about dating for marriage.
Got it. So let's talk about this. Let's first talk about the women and then talk about the men. So women, how do they know if they're coming? Like some women say, hey, I want marriage. But how do we know if they're truly ready and doing the right things in their life, that they are, where men are looking at them as, that's marriage material. She clearly wants this. She's ready to go.
Well, it's interesting. I think what I see is the clients that come to me, they've been kind of really, they are focused on this goal and they're putting time and attention to it. They are trying to get out there. Most people are online, dating online. Um, they may be sharing with their network that they want to meet somebody. And a lot of times what I find, I do have like the characteristics of a motivated to marry person in my book and my programs. But it is, people are sharing it. They're telling that a lot of times their friends are married, and when a lot of times when especially women come to me, their friends are married and have had kids. I see that with the guys too. That is kind of a domino effect,
Yeah.
and so, and they, like my husband. So when I met him, even though he was in his 40s and he never had been married before, he just finally got to the place where he knew that that's what he wanted. He was working on himself. He was actually going to a group to discuss relationships and things like that. And he was working on himself with a therapist. And so like when I asked him, I said, well, how do you like the dating world? And he said, oh, it sucks. I really hate it. But my husband's an introvert. So he likes, not that he's not social, he just likes time to himself. But introverts really want that special person in their life. And they really don't like going out there and having to do all the things to meet people. And so, and if you ask the extrovert that question, you're going to get, oh, well, I really get to do a lot of things and meet a lot of people. And I'm really, but I'm ready to meet that special person. I'm kind of tired of just, going out there. And I mean, I'm one of those people, I like to have a plan. I like to know where I'm going. And being in no man's land is a very hard place for me to be. So that was very hard. When I was single, and it's like I didn't know where I was, what was going to be, who I was going to be with, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not, depends on your personality. And there are a lot of people out there who are very happy being on their own, and they do things on their own, and they travel on their own, and I admire them for that. But I just never saw myself that way.
So let me make sure I'm hearing this right. So here are some of the pieces that motivated to marry people. First of all, maybe they've got a lot of friends that are married, so domino effect, they're next, they want it. You said, oh boy, I'm drawing a blank. What else did you say?
Well,
Do the laundry list.
Well, I will. I'll show some. So they may put in their profile that they're dating for the purpose of marriage.
Yes.
They're very specific about their goals. And I know my clients are, and or they'll tell their network and their friends that they're really looking to meet that special person if they know anyone. So they're telling people that, and they're not, they're very purposeful. I remember when I just came out of my divorce, I met a really nice guy, and he's like, wanted to date me. And I kind of wasn't ready. And I just said, well, and I just wanted to get to know him. And I said, well, why don't we just, hang out as friends? And he goes, well, I have enough friends. I'm looking for that special person. So he was really clear. And then he ends up marrying actually somebody that I know. Is kind of, we have I live in the DC area, and certain age groups and certain profile, close knit, we all know each other. So there's those kind of things. I mean, there are other kind of things. A lot of times when, like me, I grew up in a family where the expectations were placed upon you. You're going to get married and have a family. And a lot of times, sometimes I have people come to me and they go through my course and they find out that they're not motivated. And that's okay. That's clarity. And I'm a believer in just communicating and being honest about where you are in your process and what you want out of life. Because there are people who don't, and people who want to find partners, and not everybody who comes to me is looking for marriage. Sometimes they want to really talk about how to create the kind of life they want as a life coach, and who would be a good partner. I know people who've been together for many years and they're not married, and that's a choice, and that's okay. There's no judgment here. So it's just being clear about your goals and your vision and all that.
Absolutely. All right. So we got our motivated to marry folks. We know what we want. We find guys that know what they want. But what are the top mistakes that women are making that are motivated to marry?
Well, I think, again, going to the same theme, wishy-washy goals is one of the mistakes, I call it, and not really being clear about what you want for your life. And that has another kind of side effect. When you're not clear about your goals, sometimes you'll meet someone and then they have very strong goals, and then you will go along with them. And then you find out that that's not really what you want, and you have resentment, or you feel like you're losing yourself in the relationship. And so you have to be really careful about that. I'm really clear about knowing what you want, because I've seen so many times that people get into relationships, and then where it falls apart is people want different things. And so one person wants a child and one person doesn't. And it's really heartbreaking when that happens. And so people who don't know themselves and don't know what they want, I mean, I have to say, I think my ex-husband was in that place. I think he thought he knew what he wanted. He told me he wanted a family. He told me, and then when it came down to things, he really didn't. And so that was really hurtful, because I mean, I was 35 talking about having a family, and he's like, family? I don't want to have a family. That's not what I'm like, that's not what we talked about when we got married, So again, people do change as time goes on. I mean, my first marriage was almost, a little over 10 years. And so, we change a lot between the 25 and 35 age range. I even wrote a book called 30 Very Good Reasons Not to Get Married Until You're 30. So you'll like that one, right? So, because I think we change as people and what we want. I mean, when I think about what I wanted at 25 and what I wanted at 35, oh my God, there's such a difference.
Oh,
and I mean, in terms of my life and how I visioned my life and the kind of work I was doing, I mean, I think it takes a while in our society today to get really formed and kind of launched. And so to know what you want and what path you're on, and that's really important. Okay, another mistake is not focusing on your values, not really having a good sense of what's important for you. And so again, people really connect on values, and they connect on relationship values. So when your relationship values are aligned, the connection's so much easier. And so why is it sometimes that people just like connect and they're together? And why is it then people are just like going against the grain? And I mean, you may have chemistry, you may be attracted to that person, but for some reason, there's always that kind of some struggle and like, you don't understand me, or, you don't get me, or whatever it is. And so in the long run, it's not going to work out, because people can't tolerate, when things, negative experiences. And so there's a book by Dr. John Gottman, and he talks about how many positive to negative experiences in a relationship. Another mistake is not really putting the effort into it. I see these people, they talk, when they come to me, and I know when they come to you, they're really not doing much to meet people. And so they stick with the same people, they're doing the same things. And so really kind of little pushing yourself out of the comfort zone is one of the things that I do as a coach, and making them look at what opportunities are out there for them and that are aligned with their values. So you want to meet people who share your values. So once we get those values really worked on and get them out there so you can define them and express them, then we can say, where do we meet people who share those values? And then how do we kind of communicate it, whether you're doing online dating or you're in a meetup or trying to figure out where to hang out and spend your time? You want to share with people who have similar experiences and, of course, age group, but also people who share your values are really important. And I know because I met my husband through a bicycling group in DC, and, I like to be active and healthy, and he did too. So we share that in common.
Before you move on, can I ask you a question? Um, so I totally agree that values are so vitally important in terms of getting people together. Now, what about, like, I know some women are very tentative to be like, on the first date, here are my values, and like, I'm going to scare this guy off. So I'd love to hear what your advice is. Like, when should women portray their values, and obviously do it in a confident way, but when does this happen? Date 1, date 10, and then how do they execute it?
So when you know your values and you know what you're looking for, it's kind of like you have to be like a detective in a sense. And so the whole process, first of all, if you meet online, right, you can look to see how that person is communicating themselves. Sometimes people are good at communicating and some people are not so good, as you know. And so you're looking for that. And so values can be things as being responsive or being reliable, or somebody you can count on when they say, that when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. So how someone behaves in the process, you're evaluating this the whole time. And how do they treat you? And how are they following up? And then, eventually, hopefully you get off the email and the text, and you're going and you're talking to someone on the phone. I mean, I'm a baby boomer, so we're used to talking on the phone. We want to hear people's voices. And so, having a conversation. So actually what I do is I help my clients, they say, well, what kind of conversations do you want to have? And what is a way to very subtly kind of ask people about their values and talk about their values and asking them what's important about something, or they're talking about, maybe they're talking about their family and what's really important about that, and finding, you kind of finding ways to pull them out and see what's there. Now, not all your values need to be aligned, because we have personal values and we have shared relationship values. So, what I do is help people really focus on those shared relationship values and really kind of see which ones bubble up to the surface and which ones really come out. When you do something like a relationship roadblock exercise where you're asking people about their past relationships and what didn't work, you're kind of really seeing what values kind of come out, because you can see what didn't work, and then what values have been stepped on. So we can, really build a better model and kind of say, okay, now next time we want to pay more attention to this, that kind of thing. But to get to what you said, you're constantly, and then the conversations that you're having when you meet that person face to face, you go back and you say, okay, which values did I notice in this conversation? Which ones did I not? And you may not. I mean, things around trust and honesty, you may not get to right away, because that you test over time. And most people want that, but until people really show their true colors and you spend a little time with them and you get a sense of whether they're upfront or not. They're being direct and honest. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. That's fantastic. So I want to shift gears a little bit. So our motivated to marry women out here that are now going out there and selecting men, how do you make sure they're picking the right guy?
Well, again, I kind of work from a top down. You have your life vision and your goals, your life goals. So does this person want what you want? Like, I was motivated to marry and I wanted to have a family and a child. So actually, it turned out that I had a conversation within a month of meeting my husband. Now, that didn't happen right away, because I was dating for 7 years between my first marriage and my divorce, and then getting remarried at 42. So there was a time, I had to learn how to kind of, it was like a feedback loop, improve things. And so the boyfriend that I had before my husband, that we're married, it would be 17 years, was that we were dating for 3 months, and he was a single dad, and he actually, his last marriage, he married a woman with children, so he raised 4 kids. And so when I started saying, well, my goal is to get married, have a baby, he's like, baby, you want babies? I'm done. By the way, I can't do it anymore anyway. So don't even like go there. And we had dated 3 months. We were having a grand time. We had a lot in common. And, it was a very hard decision for me. And I had to make that decision. So I didn't want to wait 3 months to find out if somebody wanted to have a family. So I ended up having the conversation with my husband within a month. Now, you can't like throw it on somebody right away, because you have to say, well, do I like this person? Does the conversation flow? And am I so much attracted to somebody? And it's different for women than men. So women can actually get more attracted to men as they get to know them, as they become more what they're looking for. Whereas men are, and you can tell me this is right, but this is what I'm hearing from my male clients. It's like either you're attracted or you're not. It's not going to change. So I mean, and I know some really like guys who really try. They say, this woman is marvelous. She's wonderful. And I really try, but guess what? I'm not attracted to her. And it just doesn't work out.
Absolutely.
But it can work out. The Charlotte from the Sex and the City, she ended up with a guy who nobody expected her to be with. But he was a great guy, a really nice guy. And I've had that experience where, men have become more attracted to me as I've gotten to know them. So I know that there was kind of a path here. Oh, okay. So basically they want what you want, and then number 2 is that you do have these shared values, and that you see life similarly, and you find that you connect on very important things. And the last thing is, you have certain things you can live with and you can't live with. And, you have to say, can I live with this person? Is this somebody is this going to drive me crazy? Someone may not be the most organized person. And so can you live with them? I mean, or I had a cat, and I have a cat now, and I love cats. And I can't date guys who are allergic to cats unless they're willing to really take allergy medicine or do something like that. There are things that my non-negotiables that I'm not my deal breakers. And then there are things, of course, that I would like to have that I would, kind of give on, and you have to make those choices. And so being really clear about that. So, I know this sounds very like strategic and not, where's the heart? Of course you have to be attracted to person. Of course you have to want to be with them. I mean, that's kind of a given, but you also can't really give your heart away until you really know you're like things are going to work, and that you have the glue for the relationship. And I believe that the values are really the glue.
Yeah. And I just want to back you up on this real quick. Like, no one wants to date with a strategy. And you were just alluding to that, but you are freaking insane if you are not dating with a strategy. Because think about it, if this is your number one priority, and if you've been watching this video for this long, this is important to you. And think about anything that's been important to you. Like, you wanted to go to college. Well, you took the SAT that you probably studied for a long time. You spent like a year applying to colleges. You got good grades from 5 years old to 17 so you could get into college. Then let's look at your work life. If you want to get promoted, you went to your boss and said, what do I got to do to get promoted? And then you had a strategy on how to get there. Well, this is, for some of you, and including myself, this is the most important thing you do, is finding your partner. So why the heck would you not have, well, here's my strategy. Here's what I want. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not settling for this. I want this. Like, for me, that's just like a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you talk to Amy and document what you want and get it done?
So what I find is we get into some almost not quite relationships, and that's what I call them. And there are things that do work in that relationship. There's usually chemistry, and there are things that do work, but there's usually a couple of things that are intrinsically not going to work. And they do come to light. And so I find that my clients, I mean, I hope my clients find out sooner than later. So they're not wasting time with the wrong people. I mean, it's really sad when a woman comes to me and she's in her 40s and she's like, I was with this guy for 5 years and I was hoping to get married and it didn't work out. And now you're 42, you're 43, you know, certain things are just going to be harder. I mean, I had my son in my 40s. Let's just say that I had to really do everything possible to have him. And it was really expensive. and so I basically took his college education fund and had him. So he's worth it. He's a wonderful child. However, you know, I would love someone to not have to go through what I went through, you know, and I wish people would come to get some help earlier than later. If it's not working, you know, why wouldn't you go seek somebody who can support you and get you to your goals faster? I mean, I don't know about you. I use coaches in many areas of my life, and I think it's why I'm where I am. And career coaches, you know, you talked about investing. I mean, we had school counselors that helped us, like you were saying. And look at who helped you along the way. Everyone, you know, even a mentor. And not everybody in your peer group can really help you because their experience is different. So having somebody who has a little bit more knowledge, of course, is a benefit. It's really important to have a plan. I really believe in it. And I do create a whole dating plan, both online and offline opportunities for somebody based on their values and their goals and other things that are, you know, their interests and their passion.
Yeah.
And passion. So yeah.
All right. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing how to be motivated to marry, who's motivated to marry. This was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think everyone did. Earlier in the video, we promised you there would be a free gift, and we've got you. So what I'm going to do is it will be in the description. It's going to be Amy's free gift. It'll be in the description. I'll also put it as the top comment so you guys can find it. Amy, what free gift are you giving away?
Well, I call it my Motivated to Marry Toolkit. So it's a couple of things. I give you the first actually module of my Motivated to Marry Dating Secrets course. And that's an 8-module course to help you figure out if you're motivated to marry and how to get on that path towards engagement. And I even have timelines, and I have checklists, and I have you know, the steps it takes to get to engagement. So a lot of coaches kind of get you to the point where you meet someone. I'm really the kind of coach that helps people. Sometimes people come to me, they're in relationship. So to help you get to that place where you're dating exclusively, and then once you're dating exclusively, if you are motivated to marry, to get you towards engagement. So I mean, I take you from the soup, from the beginning to the end. And give you tools to help you along that way. So you get the first module, you get my dating template, which is my little dating plan. It's like a paint by numbers kind of thing. And then you will also get my 7-day e-course. Just is really very simple. It takes 2 minutes to read. It gives you my philosophy about dating in a very, you know, step-by-step process. So it's not overwhelming. It's something you do and you get over 7 days. And you know, hopefully it'll help you. I think it'll shift how you put yourself out there. And of course, if you need any support, you know where to find us, right?
Woo! I like that. Motivated to marry. Beautiful. Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining us on the channel. We thoroughly appreciate you taking the time. And everyone else, I will have a video for you on Tuesday and every single Tuesday moving forward. Love all of you, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.
You're welcome.